Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 337. Leon Black is back in the news today. Leon Black has asked for an independent review of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we have seen several of these quote-unquote independent reviews, and I am very skeptical of them. I have a group that should do an independent review on your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Mr. Black, and that group is the FBI. What, are you going to go hire one of your friends' lawyers to come in and do let's go and take a look at what went on, an unbiased look, like they did at the New York Academy of Art? It's an absolute joke. We're going to have an internal investigation and we'll hire an outside source and, it's not like we're paying them or anything. Give me a break. An independent review should be done, there is no doubt. But the people doing that review should be forensic accountants who work for the federal government. Let's jump into this article from the New York Times and see what Mr. Leon Black is up to. Apollo board will review Leon Black's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Black, the chief executive and chairman of Apollo Global Management, asked independent board members to examine his relationship with a convicted sex offender. Independent board members, huh? How do we know they're independent? How does anyone know that they can trust this quote-unquote independent review? Answer, we can't trust it. What does that even mean, independent board members? I'm pretty sure everybody has the same goal if they're sitting on the board of Apollo, and that's to make money. And I'm sure your relationship being put on blast is not a good way for Apollo to make that money. So what do you mean, independent board members? This article was authored by Matthew Goldstein. The billionaire Leon Black's decade-long relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein will be reviewed by a group of board members at the private equity firm he leads, Apollo Global Management. Yeah, guess who? I guarantee you who won't be involved in that, and that's Bramson. I wonder if he called up good old Mr. Bramson and asked Sherborne if they wanted to be involved. For some reason, I highly doubt that occurred. A spokeswoman for Apollo said Tuesday night that Mr. Black requested the review by members of the firm's conflicts committee during a regular scheduled board meeting. So what they're making it out like is Mr. Black is getting ahead of this. He's being so transparent. This is so great. No, he's being forced into this. Why did he wait until now? Where were you a year ago? Where were you when Jeffrey Epstein got arrested? And furthermore, why were you still hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted the first time around? And I'm going to keep asking that question until it's answered. Mr. Black asked for the review a little more than a week after the New York Times reported that he had wired at least $50 million in fees and donations to entities affiliated with Mr. Epstein in the U.S. Virgin Islands from 2012 to 2017. Again, it should be a team of forensic accountants who are looking into this. Not some independent board members that are having a review. You're just spinning the tires, wasting everybody's time. What are they going to find? You were a bad man for hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, but that's okay. You can keep your job. I mean, you're Leon Black after all. This is such a joke. All of these people, Leon Black has so much power. There's no such thing as an independent board member for Apollo. Jeez. Shares of Apollo have fallen more than 13% since the report was published. The firm reports quarterly earnings on October 29th. So, again, $50 million in fees and donations to entities affiliated with Mr. Epstein in the Virgin Islands. So, basically, he was sending money to these chop shops, these joints where you go and you wash that dough, a money laundering station. Up to $50 million that was reported. And how is he not involved with Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise. If I was some drug dealer, some cartel honcho, and I bought you a house and I got you hooked up, and when I got busted, what do you think? They're not going to seize your house as well? You got that house with ill-gotten gains, right? And they will track it to the very last dollar when it's me or you. But if it's Jeffrey Epstein's homies, nah, bro, we're going to have an independent review. We're not going to have any, let's do this the right way so Mr. Black doesn't get too mad at us. That's what it looks like. And as far as the shares falling, 13% since the report was published, good. They should fall. Who the hell wants to put their money with this guy at this point? Oh, I know, there are plenty of people that will. And what seems mind-boggling to us and gross to us is just standard practice with these people, because at the end of the day, all of these people are involved in some sort of horrific type of scumbaggery, so they just turn their head and keep it moving. In asking for the review, Mr. Black, an Apollo co-founder and its chief executive, said an independent review was in the best interest of Apollo, its employees, shareholders, and limited partners. The board committee retained the law firm Detchert LLP to conduct the review. So I'm going to do a deep dive into this law firm later on, look for some ties that bind, etc., etc. And then the next episode, when we get together here on this podcast, I will talk a little bit about what I found. So again, all of these law firms that do these so-called independent reviews, I am skeptical of them right away. Because it's not like it's a normal person that's initiating this, like a normal business. Leon Black has a lot of reach, a lot of power, and he intimidates a lot of people. So what makes anyone think that this law firm is going to come in and do the right thing, or not hide anything, or not do it half-assed? Mr. Black and Apollo have repeatedly said that Mr. Epstein did no work for the firm, which counts some of the biggest public pensions in the world among its investors. And there's going to be a problem. Mark my words, folks. There's going to be a problem with these public pensions. These people and the pensions in general, they don't want to be involved in anything like that. We're talking about public pensions here. And I don't know if you're familiar with the show Billions, but you should be. There's something similar that went on in that show when Bobby Axelrod got nailed. So that's a real life thing. That stuff does happen. People will pull their money out. And I have no doubt in my mind that very soon we'll see some of these public pensions pausing their business with Apollo. In a letter to investors after the Times report, Mr. Black said he had not been accused of any wrongdoing. He said he had paid millions in fees to Mr. Epstein for advice, mainly on estate planning. Yeah, that's a pretty convenient excuse, huh? Paid him for advice. So there's no money. There's no money trail there, right? There's no receipts. How do we know what you really paid him for? Or were you guys in business doing something else? Something out of view for the public? Either way, the fact that you were sending millions of dollars back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein, the head of a criminal enterprise, should put you, Mr. Black, directly in the sights of investigators. And I'm not talking about as a witness. And I'm not talking about just losing your job. I'm talking about an independent review. You like those, right? I guess so. I'm a big fan of those, I'm guessing. So let's give them one. But like I said a little bit ago, let's have them show up in FBI jackets. Mr. Epstein died in custody in August 2019 after federal prosecutors in Manhattan had accused him of engaging in sex trafficking with underage girls as young women. His death was ruled as a suicide. Allegedly. Mr. Black's letter said he regretted his dealings with Mr. Epstein, but he had been unaware of the activities that led to the most recent criminal charges against him. Oh, isn't that convenient as well? I don't have Google. I don't use the internet. I'm Leon Black. I'm only worth 400 bazillion trillion dollars. The internet? That's for peasants. You didn't know what Jeffrey Epstein was accused of. Really? Who was believing this shit? Only the people that have cognitive dissonance, only the people that want to believe it, only the people that want to keep fattening their pockets on the back of Apollo, those people might believe it. But anyone living in reality, anyone who exists in the real world, understands this is bullshit. Mr. Epstein pleaded guilty to a charge of soliciting prostitution from an underage girl in Florida in 2008, a case that required him to register as a sex offender. Mr. Black's letter offered few details about the nature of the work that Mr. Epstein had provided for him in the years that followed. Mr. Epstein, a college dropout who styled himself a financial guru to the very wealthy, had no particular expertise in tax or estate planning. So again, what was he paying him for? You're one of the richest men in the world, Mr. Black. And you need to bring on a dropout, a college dropout, a guy that doesn't have any sort of chops within the financial sector, a guy that nobody knows who he is, a guy that's only working with a couple of people. What are you trying to hide, Mr. Black? What are you trying to keep secret? Why do you need to associate with Jeffrey Epstein? Mr. Black is worth about $9 billion, that's billion, and is one of the wealthiest executives on Wall Street. He has an art collection estimated to be worth $1 billion and serves as chairman of the board of the Museum of Modern Art. Imagine the hubris, the arrogance, the self-aggrandizing it takes to have $1 billion in art. I mean, look, I don't knock anybody for their hustle, right? Rich people, go ahead, make your money, spend it how you want, do what you want with it. But $1 billion in art is absolutely and utterly gross. It is obscene. This guy lives in an absolutely separate reality from the rest of us. He doesn't have any kind of rules, obviously, that he has to live by. And his business ties with Jeffrey Epstein, if it wasn't for Epstein's second arrest, would have gone unnoticed. All of these people. And that's one of the things that makes me really shake my head. If the doors haven't been blown open in this case, if we haven't come from where we were to where we are, then none of this would have ever been exposed. Leon Black would have got off. Jess Staley would have got off. Wexner would have probably been able to skate. Glenn Dubin for sure would have been able to skate. Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, all of these people that were deeply entangled with Jeffrey Epstein are now having to, at the very least, start fielding some questions. And in some cases, it's having severe consequences on them, professionally speaking, and most certainly within the public. But it's kind of hard to feel bad for somebody, right? Who has $1 billion art collection. $1 billion. It takes a lot of hubris to have $1 billion art collection. Mr. Black asked for the review because he wants an independent analysis to support his statement that he did nothing wrong and all the fees paid were legitimate, according to a person briefed on the matter who was not authorized to speak publicly. Well, how are we supposed to know? All right, how are we supposed to know if you're just using an independent group of lawyers that nobody knows who they are? You hired them. Nobody else hired them. And if the past is any indicator of the future in this case, and it sure seems that it has been, then what we're looking at here is another mummer's farce. More BS. More waste of time. Do you really think this independent review is going to unearth some groundbreaking information about the man who's paying them to do the review, Leon Black, and his pal Jeffrey Epstein? For some reason, I highly doubt that's going to occur. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I will be back later, and, we'll get back at it.